What's up, traders? Going 6 for 6 today. I'm gonna jump right into this. We weaseled. I used that word yesterday to $100 today, $108. We ended up getting to our goal, and I didn't like one single trade. I did like IOVA, but we ended up FOMOing into that a little bit early, which we'll get to, because of pretty much, I'm assuming, the rest of the day kind of playing into that. So our first trade was actually on Tesla, and we shorted it. This thing made a pretty crazy move in the morning up to around that 1010 area and started to pull back, and then it decided to come back up to that area and blow through it. And if we scroll in, you can see it made a pretty decent move. And I was really just kind of waiting for any signs of this thing to slow down. And we finally got it, and we got in 3 shares. And the reason we take 3 shares is because 3 shares is still what, $3,900. And you know, if you look at the margin requirements on this thing, the stuff we only get 40% instead of the 25%. It was, it can get sketch. Like if it continues, and I want to scale into this like I normally would, if I do a 112, you're starting to talk about pretty much all of my account. So it's kind of crazy. Back when it was like $700, it's a little different, right? You add almost $400 to this. It starts to eat at your equity pretty quick. And when you're trading with a smaller account, this is why a lot of people will look to options to trade things like Tesla, because I simply just can't take enough shares to really make it worthwhile. So it can be a little bit frustrating, sure. But at the same time, it ended up being a decent trade. I was really hoping to get this like 10-10 retest on the remaining shares, but as you can see, it started to curl, and so we took it off, and it did end up trying to go up there towards the highs a couple times, but ultimately ended up failing and trying that 10-10 area. Got the 10-15, but ultimately ended up going higher before getting absolutely crushed the remainder of the day. So second trade, PDD. This one was a pretty good one. Again, if you want to watch any of these trades, I was live for all of them. So head over to Twitch. I'll have a link to it down in the pinned comment. You can check it out there. PDD, previous resistance, 49.50 area. Get a nice move up through 50, up to 51. And on some volume too. That was the biggest volume bar of the day. And yeah, took it short, pretty much topped it. I think this was the one where we literally were 2 cents from the top. Let's see. Maybe not. That must have been a different one. We were pretty close to the top, but then we were pretty close to the bottom on that pullback. And then as you can see, this thing just continued higher for the rest of the day. So pretty good trade there on PDD. And I'm just glad that it grinded the rest of the way, because it never really gave us another chance to get in. That was definitely our best chance. And we're obviously hoping to maybe get more out of that. But the way it was trading after we got in it, I was ready to just kind of get out of it. So decent little trade there on PDD. BILI was our next trade. This one, maybe this was the one. Yeah, this was the one. So the high of this one was 32.45. Our entry was 32.43. So 2 cents off the high. It pulls back to 32.10 and we got 32.12. So we missed the top by 2 cents and we got the bottom by 2 cents. Literally pretty much the entire move that we got there. Again, previous resistance here, 31.54 area. And got a nice move up through it, get short, looking for it to come down, retest that area, get the most out of it, and then ultimately this thing ended up running through. I was actually ready to get short this again. I was looking for through 35, and man, that would have been a good short. But unfortunately, it didn't give us that extra little push, and unfortunately, just didn't get it. Next one. This one was really small. I didn't really love this move, but if you look, scroll out, previous day's high down here, 640 area. Made a little bit of a high here, tried it a couple times, then finally went through at 658. That's why I drew this line. And, decent candles. I was really just kind of bored looking for something to trade. Took really small size, took 100 shares on something that we probably could have took like 300. And just got the little drop, took it, wasn't trying to be too greedy with that one. Pretty small, insignificant win there. Next trade was on AMBO. This actually ended up being a pretty good one. It was volume out of nowhere for the most part. Move up, cheaper stock. Was looking to size into this one. Took 200 shares. Was really hoping we could get some continuation to get some more shares and then get that $1 test, because it was pretty much straight up. And yeah, didn't get it. Just got our entry. Ended up being right. Came back down. Was obviously hoping for a $1, but we ended up putting an order out and we got filled at 106. So pretty happy with that one. And then our last trade was IOVA. But first I wanted to talk about SECO. Was pretty sad about this one. Another penny stock, but man, we pulled this up and I was typing in to see how many shares we had. We had plenty, and it went from 68 back to 64-ish. And so I put an order out at 67 because the ask was there. And it just started to kind of penny its way down, and we didn't get filled. And this thing just absolutely tanked like immediately. It was pretty sad. We tried to take 400 shares on that. That would have been a good $40, $50 trade. Just missed it. It was a tad too slow, kind of sad, which I think is what led to this trade. IOVA, volume out of nowhere. You can see the highs we were going off of were right here. Nice move up from here, up through 17, got to that 1720 area, and it started to jiggle. Again, this was the first candle of the volume out of nowhere. So probably my own fault here, but we started it at 1720. Ultimately, you can kind of see two arrows here because we added here and then it came down and we ended up taking that half off. It was just really struggling to get back down, was really obviously hoping for the 17 retest. Wasn't getting it, took half off. It comes back up to that same area and we add those shares back again because it started to struggle again. This is obviously before these candles formed. But right after we get in, it does decide to go higher. I realize I'm back to the size that I was, and I don't really like my average too much at this point because we're at 1752, which we can draw that line real quick. So we're like right around there. And it started to make this high. And then, of course, it runs into 18 and dies. So now I'm sitting at what is about half the move, and I hate that. But I sat there and was like, you know what? We're just going to have to hope it comes down. We'll just have to take it off break even, et cetera. Those are the thoughts going through my head because I'm not going to add to a position. Like when it decides to keep going and I started this early, I need to realize I can't add too fast because if I get too big too quick, that's where my strategy is hurting because my max loss is not that far away from when I get into trades. So I need to be a little bit more careful on things that I am early on because if I'm early and I add too quick, my size is going to get too quick. And this thing was also right near the halt price several times. If this were to halt and gap up, it's not going to be pretty. So at this point, I'm like, okay, I got back to my the original size I had at this position at this position in the trade, and my average is up a little bit higher. So at this point, I'm like, well, if it goes up through 18, I would be happy with that spacing for an ad. So we have 100 shares at this point, put another 100 shares out at 1822. We get filled, ends up being 1834, the high, starts to come down. And I think this put our average, it was at 1787. And we ended up taking half off at 1780. And we had put that order out. We put another order at 66. We got filled on those. For half of those. And then I really wanted to hold these other half, but I also didn't want to let, after such a big move down, have it bounce pretty much right off our average, not right off our average, bounce back up to our average and take us out. So I was like, VWAP's right there now. It caught up. The 9 was catching up. Everything was like right there. I was like, I'm just going to take it. And then, of course, it decided to make a little bit of a bigger move down through VWAP. It did end up trying to come back up. It did end up failing. And fizzling out, but it is what it is. I'm not going to be upset about it. Even if I kept these leftovers, I probably get stopped out somewhere as it comes back through VWAP, probably the break of this candle. So we got filled at 61 with no slippage. We get, probably a fill at 58, 59 here. So probably not that big of a deal anyway if I did hold the leftovers because there's no way, if we're being honest, I wasn't going to hold through all of this. So, I wasn't looking to let this go back higher, obviously. So ended up being our biggest trade of the day. Wasn't huge, but it did bring us over that $100 mark, which is really nice considering I did not have one single trade that I absolutely loved. If I had the mentality I had all morning in this trade, I probably don't start this trade until up here around 18. And then I get to add up through 18 and my average is 18 plus. And then we start fizzling. Then I probably do hold through this. And I have, whether it's 150, 200 shares, even if it's just 100 shares, 100 shares at 18 and I'm taking profit down here, I'm still making more money had I just been more patient with that first entry. But I think missing that SECO trade, which is why I brought it up, I think that influenced me subconsciously And I ended up starting this early because I always say don't start on that first candle of a volume out of nowhere because you're in price discovery mode. Who knows what the news is? It could be a buyout, could be a merger, could be anything. And we don't know what that news is. So on that first candle, you should really be careful because it's trying to figure out where it wants to go. Or it might already know where it's going. If it's like a buyout, it could have been at 1860. And then what? We started this thing down at 1720. It's going to 1860 and staying there. That sucks. So I need to maybe realize if I'm going to trade later in the day, like I did today, I need to be a little bit more cautious and pay attention to that. So that's all I have. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I always appreciate that support. If you do have any questions or comments, feel free to leave those down below. You can also find me in Discord or over on Twitter. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.